success and failure are the two sides of the same coin. One cannot help feeling elated when successful or low when failing. But doctors see both birth and death from very close quarters. If they tend to feel happy about one successfully cured patient, another may not be successful. Over a period, if not totally immune to such things, they do develop a kind of sustained balance of mind. I told you the success story about the curing of Mr. Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy, the then President of India. If that was a success story, the story of my own father-in-law, Mr. Tadepalli Srinivasa Rao, father of my wife Subhadra, was a story otherwise. He developed some trouble in his lungs. He was treated initially for an infection, then for tuberculosis for some time in India. But when the investigations confirmed that it was cancer, I took him to All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. Dr. Nagarur Gopinath from AIIMS was close to me. In fact, the Indian government had also sent him to New York along with President Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy. He stayed with me for almost a month. He was very friendly with me. He used to be very punctual and disciplined. He was an inspiration for me. However hard he toiled throughout the day and however late he retired to bed, he used to rise early and work on his books, documentation and research work. It was Dr. Gopinath who had started the division of cardiothoracic surgery at AIIMS, Delhi in 1964. From then, open heart surgery had become accessible for people across India. It's not a hyperbole to state that with his teaching skills, he honed talent in many a student and equipped a generation of doctors in the country. Most of his students are in important positions in many reputed hospitals. Even after his retirement in 1982, he continued his relationship with AIIMS as Professor Emeritus. He did much research on cardiac ailments and encouraged his students also to do so. He was honored with Life Achievement Awards by the Indian Association of Cardiologists and Thoracic Surgeons. Recognizing his services to his country, the Indian government conferred Padma Shri on him during 2004. Although Professor Gopinath was a cardiac surgeon, he performed a surgery for lung cancer for my father-in-law at Delhi solely because of his affection for and friendship with me. My father-in-law recovered and left for his town. But after 3.5 years, the cancer resurfaced. This time, after their initial dilemma as to where to go for treatment between Delhi and the US, my in-laws decided to come to the US. Since I had been working at Memorial Sloan Kettering Hospital, my father-in-law wanted to get himself treated there. In reality, it's not a hospital affordable for ordinary middle-class people without insurance. It catered more to the premiers of the countries or top celebrities from various fields. My family was not in a position to afford the cost of treatment there. At that time, I had joined MSK very recently. My children were young yet. My savings in the bank might aggregate to hardly $1,000 US, while the expenses incurred for the treatment of my father-in-law were about $2,000 US per day. When the doctors had lost the hope of his recovery and advised us to take him home, we did so. We paid the night nurse $200 US per night. I am at loss for words to describe how greatly tormented I was those days. I could not tell my in-laws that the expenses were much beyond my wallet, nor could I tell them to return to India, but I could not keep myself away from the problem. I was anguished as I was slowly getting sunk into deep debt. Not able to grapple with the situation, I used to take shelter among the distant, silent mountain range on the outskirts of the city. I used to break down into tears in that solitude. I was caught between the human values I cherish on one side and my poor financial status on the other. The trains of thought as a doctor on one and as a son-in-law on the other tormented me. I could not share this even with my wife. I was filled with anxiety. After a few days, his condition worsened and we admitted him to the hospital again. After 2 weeks in ICU, he died in 1981. With a heavy heart, my mother-in-law returned to India. My home was filled with gloom and a kind of eerie silence. When I resumed my duties, Mr. John Glenn, the chief of the finance department of the hospital, called for me. The bill for my father-in-law's treatment had come to over $60,000. What are you going to do? He inquired. By no means I can afford it, was my answer. I decided to meet Dr. Samuel Hellman, a physician-in-chief who was also very fond of me, my research and my patient care, in order to request that he help me. Upon my request, he called the accounts office and instructed him to waive as much of the charges as possible. With that, my debt had been considerably reduced and the rest of the bill I paid in installments. This is an example as to how the tides and ebbs quickly follow one another in life.